All right, we're back with the meeting is back in order here. We just had a guest speaker, Michael, who talked to us about solar. We've got another live feed on the page, so if you haven't had a chance to see that, you're welcome to go back and review it. We also have a link to his website on our well, it's on the live feed comments, but it's also on our website. So I'll begin with the, I am now Region 9 representative for the state of Florida, Libertarian Party of Florida Executive Committee. So Greg and Marie had the honors for 2 years giving us our state LP update during our meetings, so I'll be doing that now. I attended one conference EC call last month, or earlier this month, I don't remember the exact date. You know, the big thing was our chair gave us our new chair, Stephen Nikila, gave us a kind of a summary and interpretation, if you will, of the fiscal report from our 2019 state convention. We won't get into all of that here, but it was a very thorough and detailed overview, interpretation, and then some goals and strategies moving forward and how to address that. There's a lot of opinions about all of that, so I'm actually I'm actually the vice chair now. See how that works? You show up for a committee and you're damn vice chairman. That's two committees, both committees I'm on, I'm the vice chairman. But that was my hard line, so. I'm on the convention committee. We've got our hands full, hosting trying to move the ball down the field with the momentum that we got from a very successful 2019 convention as far as raising the bar of our professionalism, the perspective really nationwide from libertarians, including some of our national EC members, thank you, was very positive. Many thought that it was the best convention they'd ever attended. Nevertheless, regardless of the opinion, one of the big targets was to raise the professionalism significantly, and we did that. Financially, there were some challenges, so our burden now as the committee moving forward for the 2020 convention is to at least try to have as professional an event, but clearly with an entirely different financial goal and strategy. So, anyways, not a lot to update. One thing, of course, it has been decided that the convention for 2020 will be in Orlando. If nobody knew that, it is. There was a previous. Well, that'll go into this meeting. There was kind of a verbal commitment that had been made on the EC's part to partner with a very large resort in Orlando, which clearly we're going to talk about that on this EC meeting. So I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be at that venue, but we're going to. There's a lot of options in Orlando of venues. We're the tourism capital of the world, so I'll have more information on the venue, as we move forward in the year, the next couple months. So anyways, I'm also on the Legislative Action Committee. I firmly believe that right now, as the Libertarian Party of Florida sits with its financial situation as it is right now, with the membership we have right now, the most effective place that I think we could be right now, or one of the most effective places, is engaging with legislation and engaging with the connections we have through various media outlets to have an opinion on legislation as it's moving through the process in Tallahassee and before. I mean, session's not until next year, but there's bills already being created. There's players already trying to get allies for I mean, it's a never-ending cycle up there, even though session is really, 60 days in the spring. So we've got a good committee. We've got good active volunteers on it. One of the things the committee is doing, and this is good news for Orlando, Orange County, one of the goals of the state legislative action committee is to reach out and charge the affiliates to pinpoint in their community one piece, just one piece of legislation or statute or ordinance that you as an affiliate would like to see changed so that you could have a more free community, whatever that is, you know. An example, not anything that we've engaged in, but legislation that recently changed in Orlando based on some activity of the West Orange Chamber and some other groups. Apparently in Orange County, you could not, in unincorporated Orange County, you could not bring your dog into restaurants or onto a patio, which clearly was, you can go to City of Orlando, you can go to Winter Park, and you know there's literally restaurants that cater to dog owners. But in unincorporated Orange County, that was not the case. So that's not, thankfully, that's not legislation that we need to target because it's already corrected itself through other activists in the community. But I'm saying that as an example of, it doesn't have to be, you know, this giant mountain that we may not even have the resources to overcome. It could be something like that, because if we can make those sorts of things happen or be a part of them happening and help non-libertarians in our community increase their quality of life, we start to become more popular to them. So that's the strategy, and I think we have some decent resources in Orange County, not as much as we need, clearly, but really the dialogue with the Legislative Action Committee stems from some of our affiliates are smaller than this one, as far as the active membership and their ability to do things. So the state, though we pale in comparison to the other parties as far as their resources, the state does have resources at a far greater capacity than a typical county affiliate. So we're not going to do the work for you. So out of 7 counties, I don't know how many affiliates we have. It's 27. We have 27 affiliates, and really the region reps are going to be charged to try to target legislation. This may be a side way that we could drum up some interest in unaffiliated counties. If we can target legislation through the region rep in that area, and if it makes sense to you know, help impact it, and I mean, you know, just glass half full here. Let's just say we make an unaffiliated county freer, and we get a lot of love from non-libertarians. Well, now you've got a more captive audience to market, you know, the volunteers that we need for an affiliate to actually exist. So, so anyways, those are the two committees that I'm most involved in. I'll always plug, as Greg and Marie did. I mean, we need volunteers. There's no shortage of people that cry and bitch and moan about this, that, and the other. If you would give a fraction of that energy and take it away from your keyboard and put it into something productive, we'll find ways to plug you in. And one thing that I was discussing in some forums today, not everybody wants to maybe take the commitment of being on a committee, and I get that. I know for a fact that the legislative committee, for one, will be able to give tasks. So let's just say your limit is, I'll do tasks, but I don't want to be on a committee. That's great. So reach out because we've got tasks. What does that look like? We're going to have legislation that we need people to help read and summarize and, you know, give feedback back to the committee so that we can start. You know, there's 4 or 5 people on the committee. Clearly, we don't have the ability to read, you know, all the legislation that we need to read. So, and that's just one committee. I mean, convention committee, membership committee. You know, there's no shortage of opportunity. So, so that's it for my state report. Unless anybody has any questions. All right, my chair report. I'll keep it brief. I'm drawing a blank. What did we do this month that would be pertinent? Any events? Yeah. some committees with my career. One is a government and economic advocacy committee with the West Orange Chamber. So there's some stuff going on behind the scenes in that committee. I can't be real clear on it, but I'm on that committee basically because I'm considered an environmental activist. So I bring an environmental opinion to a board of movers and shakers in Orange County, Western Orange County specifically. And we are on the front end of some legislation and things. So I'll give you more updates on that. But those are that's just kind of a vague example of some of the things as your chair that I do, just because there's an overlap in my career and my political activism. Not always there necessarily representing you, but on some level I'm always there representing you, basically. Just because I am a libertarian and I believe in what we're doing and what we stand for. So that is the end of my chair report. I will concede my time. Pedro is not here, so my assumption is we don't have a vice chair report. Madam Secretary?
Everything is up to date with our records. There's nothing to report. I will have something I want to say later in open discussion about the research for microphones for better audio.
Okay. All right. Treasurer report, Greg?
Yes, sir. Well, since our last business meeting, we have received $95 in contributions and expended $39.28. I would like to remind everyone that we are funded entirely by voluntary donations and almost exclusively of individuals. We don't have any big sugar daddies or fat cats backing us, so we need your help and we need your assistance. We take cash in the jar here.
Yeah.
If you can't make it to this meeting but would still like to support the party, go to lporangefl.org and click on that big donate button we have. Particularly if you can commit to a $5 or $10 monthly pledge, being able to budget on that really helps us out. So looking forward to your support on that. Our current balance at Regions Bank is $3,663.42, less one uncleared check totaling $1,858 and one uncleared credit card donation receipt of $50 minus the $50. So we're holding about steady on our bank account, keeping it right where we want to keep it for safety reserves. It means any additional contributions we get above that can be allocated towards actually doing things. We've maintained 4 monthly recurring donors so far for a total monthly pledge of $75 a month. Expenditures included online donation fees, as always, and technology purchases authorized last month, specifically a clamp for a cell phone video rig that's, I think, going to be a lot better than the one that we have today, even though it was only $6. And a ruggedized tablet case for the new tablet that we got for signing up voter registrations, swiping card donations, and things like that. I also set up Instagram on the tablet, so we might be able to use it for that. Looking forward to ways that we can put that to use in actual events. But right now it's set up, but we don't quite have the wallpaper branding on it yet. On the regulatory compliance side, the 2019 second quarter campaign report that was due on July 10th was submitted on time and accepted without issue. So that's always a relief. The next report, the Q3 report, will be due October 10th. We got a while before that one. In terms of budget line items, we still have $107 left on printing expenses that we just use as we go. We have $100 left on social media advertising expenses, which less a little bit that we paid for that hasn't hit yet. We have $233 left on equipment expenses. That's primarily the microphone, because I came in under everything else that we asked for. And then we still have $114 left to put towards anything we need for events. And everything else, we still have the Tiger Bay subscription, but I think at this point that probably doesn't make sense.
I don't think it does, based on my commitment when I asked for that money was that I would weigh and measure my ability to consistently attend that, given the cost, and I just haven't been able to. So
it's probably good we didn't pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, I appreciate the thought, but again, as the party of fiscal conservatism, I think we need to be real careful on that big of an investment if we're not getting the right ROI.
Oh, and just for completeness, we also have $18 left to paper stamps.
Okay.
So that's the treasurer's report. And I also have our latest bank statement available for any member to look at if they want to. That's always my commitment, is that we keep things clear and transparent, and particularly as we've run into issues elsewhere, that's all the more important to reinforce.
Absolutely. So, thank you, Greg. So we're going to move into our committee reports. There is no bylaws report that I'm aware of. Finance report?
There's no finance report this month.
No finance report. So we'll segue into Izzy for our communications report. Well, it's really Greg's chair, but I know Izzy has a good report for us, so I was skipping.
Yeah, so I'll get through the metrics first, and then and then once we've gone through the metrics and everything else, then I'll let Izzy kind of do the interpretation.
Which we need. We need a lot of that.
So the metrics that we had is our Facebook likes, the people that are actively engaged with our page, increased by 192 over the past month to a total of 1,531. This was more than double our projected growth. We only projected to go up to 1,400 by now.
Yeah.
And grew faster than any other Orange County party EC. One of the things I check is our counterparts, our the Republican Party page, the Democratic Party page, and the Green Party page, as well as the Young Republicans and Young Democrats. The only page that had anywhere near the growth that we did was the Democratic Party, and they're much larger than we are in Orange County.
What they have is a dormant growth. They don't have active engagement growth like we do. So in other words, theirs is because of their base number, not because they're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. So for the concrete numbers, for example, we grew by 192 last month. The Democrats grew by 99. The Republicans grew by 1. And the Republicans are already starting off with about a fourth of our total page count to begin with.
They're doing nothing.
The Greens lost 1, which I was honestly surprised by that.
Yeah.
And then the Young Republicans had the next most growth. The Young Republicans were up 26.
I have an explanation.
And the Young Democrats were up 2. So one interesting question I have about all this that gets back into interpretation is we have this plus 192 follows. I do wonder how many of them are actually in Orange County, because I pulled our voter registration growth. Our voter registration only grew by 3 in the same time period.
People who follow Facebook does not have a way of connecting voter registration with likes. So the people who follow aren't necessarily registering with the party itself as much as they're possibly getting ready to.
Yeah.
In other words, they're watching. They're getting ready to see if they can embrace the ideas. The fact that they've liked, there's a good metric to go off of in terms of whether or not a person is getting ready to actually join something, and that is whether they followed the page or liked it. We have 2 stats, not 1. There's page likes and there's page follows. And on any page where people are skeptical but they're interested, you usually have a huge gap between follows and likes. But if a person hits likes, that's an endorsement, and usually it just means that they're waiting to actually join in on the action and possibly register. So the reason why you're seeing that discrepancy is most likely because they're going to watch what we're going to be doing in the future.
Yeah. I think there is some of that going on. I'd also say that with our posts going viral, particularly as you will be explaining later, I think they're also getting picked up in other parts of the country, and that's a good thing overall.
We can't really complain about it.
Yeah.
But
it just is interesting from the perspective of our mission.
I know. You may think it's misleading, but here's the deal. If you are able to garner attention from other counties and other locations, then there's a good reason for a person to actually register and sign up with you.
Yeah, let's call a spade here. Where do we live? We live in one of the most popular destinations to visit and move to.
The mouse.
So, I mean,
yeah, that's not a bad thing. It's just I'm trying to make some sense of the numbers.
Yeah, no, I can provide the insight as you need on that.
Yeah. Now on the other platforms, we've had some growth on Mine's platform. That's kind of an experimental thing that Rob Casterline's been doing. Rob had some more stuff to speak on that. We'll let him brief us next month.
Is he coming, by the way?
He was originally planning to. I don't know what happened today.
We usually see him online these days.
Yeah. Twitter is also a slow growth. It's not the same kind of growth we're seeing on Facebook, but there is steady posting.
I've been maybe
And,
I have presence there, but I haven't.
Yeah. Discord has kind of settled more into a collaboration tool than a chat growth platform, and that's fine. That was kind of the intent anyway.
It's actually the opposite. You don't want growth of that kind like on Facebook, on Discord, and the reason is because since Discord is a private platform with registration and anonymous identities, you never know who's going to end up there. A few days ago, a crime was committed using Discord. You don't want that uncontrolled growth happening. Right now, among millennials, they're discussing Discord as a possible tool for criminals. So I would not encourage growth, like, without some.
Yeah, so in that case, it makes sense to keep it focused more as an internal collaboration tool.
Correct.
On
Yeah.
Instagram, we had an interesting issue, is that the Instagram account we had set up appeared to have been locked due to inactivity. I haven't been able to get a good answer on that.
As in, we can't log in
As in, yeah, we can't log in.
because we haven't used it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But I don't know for sure what the answer is. I'm looking into how to appeal this to Instagram. In the meantime, I just set up a new account with a new email
gotcha.
address.
Exactly, and we have to use that one as much as possible.
Yeah, and so I gave the credentials to our newest volunteer, Tricia.
Actually, by the way, I have an update on the Instagram thing too. There's a reason why that's happening, so I'll tell you about that.
Yeah. So hopefully we can get that up and running. We neglected YouTube this month. I will try to get our live stream videos up on YouTube as well, just so we have it on as many platforms as possible. And then the kind of key thing I wanted to hit before turning it over to Izzy is mass email. We had conducted an evaluation of mass email services and down selected a couple different choices. However, there's one decision that I think we need to make as an EC that I wasn't comfortable making a unilateral call on, which is, do we want to go with the free MailChimp for now with its limitations, or did we want to go with one of the paid choices? The free MailChimp, which is what Zach had previously set us up with, we can have up to 2,000 contacts, but it does include
Per month?
No, total. So that's fewer than the number of voters we have in the county, although more than the number of emails we currently have. And we don't have
And do
email
they
for every voter.
consider a contact a response, or,
No.
or is our outsending email as a contact?
Neither. It is the destination email address.
Address, just address.
So that's how big your contact book can be.
Oh, okay, so you can email them how many
You
times?
can email them, I believe it was 10,000 a month.
Oh,
So it'd be basically, if you had the full 2,000, it'd be five emails a month.
right.
So that's, we ideally would eventually hit that limit, but we don't, I mean,
One email a week.
yeah. But right now, that seems a little implausible, so it might be good to start with a free service as a starting point.
Yeah, if we're not using it.
One of the downside of the free MailChimp is that it does include their branding in the free version that shows you didn't pay for it.
Watermarks or something.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can do it anyway as an experiment, but that's one downside. The other
So
issue,
what's the next tier then?
the next tier up is there's a sideways tier where you can do $9.99, but that limits you to 500 contacts. And
We have unlimited email? Or?
no, it's still only 10,000, but it removes their branding watermark.
Oh, but it's 500.
Yeah. Now, once you go up to the next tier above that, MailChimp starts getting a little bit expensive.
Not worth it.
Yeah, that's $30 for the next tier, which is I think 2,500 contacts, and then 10,000 contacts was something like 120 a month.
And they still limit you on.
Yeah, the email limits go up, but it's still a limit. There's other services that aren't free, but for the 2,500 and 10,000 tier are more cost effective. Whichever one we pick, if we change our mind later, there will be a switching cost in terms of time and things else.
Also, that I can see the value in the dialogue then, because it does sound appealing to take the free service from MailChimp, but if we start to have success and we want to go up,
Yeah, then we start.
you're gonna have to basically probably skip the first tier and go right to the second
Yeah.
tier,
Yeah, and then
which is 30 a month.
yeah, I believe so. I'd have to cross check. And then most of the other services we looked at were about 15 to 30 a month. And then, of course, if we grow much beyond that, then we have to look at scaling. And if we change our mind later, then it's the effort to migrate from one service to another.
Well, but think about that though, if we're changing from there, we've had a shit ton of success with our email.
Yeah.
Well, just with that type of marketing, which my assumption would be that our membership's grown, our cash flow's grown.
At that point, we can also forecast additional cash flow that the expense may not be a problem. So,
Well, you could almost have the same argument for MailChimp.
yeah, exactly. And that's
So
why I
I
said
guess my question
with
is-
that debate, I was hesitant to make the decision by myself without checking back with the EC.
My opinion, since this isn't a real motion, my opinion would be that I would want more information on the $30 a month tier. But that doesn't sound, if we can start free and get some results, I would think by the time we take that step, we've got 4 to 5 more people.
I'd like to add in that if you want to, on your research, we do have a recommendation from Bridget Bailey to look into constant contact. Add that to
Oh,
it.
there's another tool, okay.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other ones I looked at. I'll have to, I have a
Thank you,
whole.
Bridget.
Yeah, thank you. I'll have to look at my spreadsheet to see if that's one I looked at. If not, I'll have to take that look. Because I have a whole spreadsheet that breaks down the exact metrics and ROI of each one that I can send you.
I just feel like we've talked about this so long that we need to just make a decision and run with it. I mean, what I don't know is how difficult it is to change from one to the other. So assuming it is a real headache to do that.
Yeah, and it might not be. I honestly don't know.
Another thing is that I've heard, and I don't know how true this is anymore, that some of them may have more bounce back than others, as far as their rate on how well they get stuff out. Not just for, whether or not we put in a good contact, but whether or not it gets bounced to their junk mail automatically. That some services may get bumped to junk mail more than others. So there may be, I'm sure that there's rating services out there to compare them and give us some more of that data.
Yeah. So I think the conclusion here is that we'll discuss this informally and then try to roll forward with something that makes sense before the next meeting.
So and I know this isn't the appropriate time for the motion, but I'm asking, do you think it would be, could we make a motion of approving maybe up to $20 a month? And then at least have that in place so that.
Yeah. I mean, this would still be valid for the advertising budget that we had already passed, but that would only cover 2 months worth of it.
Okay, so you can get the ball rolling.
So I can do the first month in my existing authorization if that makes sense, and that's what we want to do.
I just don't want to wait another month.
And then we just have to pass another authorization next month to continue it.
Okay.
And Bridget did mention that at least on one of them, I'm not sure if it's just constant contact, that it comes out as a CVC file that's easy to upload to something else, and that you can see direct link clicks as well as opens, and whether it's worth keeping a list or not. So I think definitely looking into
Yeah,
that.
I'll add that one to my list to look into.
So are we?
That's it for my part of the report. I think Izzy's next, and then Marie.
Just two quick things before I talk about that. Regarding the Instagram thing, this has been happening with a lot of people that pass a certain number of followers, and what they've been doing, any public figures that want to protect their base have been doing backup accounts as their number or their reach goes up. I've seen this happen with everyone, not just politicians, like with a lot of people who are not already on national television. Some of their accounts actually get killed. Sometimes the account is up, but they can't access it. They lose access to it, and it's active and everything. So I suspect hacking is involved. When it comes to politics and on Instagram, Instagram has very bad security these days. And they're trying to do something about it, but the only changes they've done were the algorithm, how they promote posts. Everybody's been complaining about that. So they're changing things, but not in the right direction. What they should be doing is security. That solution is the backup. The second thing I wanted to quickly address was what you talked about, the followers versus the voter registration. My main issue with our following on Facebook is the fact that Facebook always downvotes our posts. There is clear, unmistakable bias to the point that,
Thank you.
to the point that the White House is getting involved in social media, if you all heard about the summit that turned into almost a brawl the other day over there. There is bias, and it's not aimed at one party or another. There is bias against politics in general because it has hit their shares in the stock market a lot. People attribute their negativity, their value to their negativity, and it drops. And Facebook doesn't want that anymore. Facebook wants to follow its agenda, do what it has to do to help whoever the biggest bidder is in 2020 win, but not at the cost of people's peace of mind. And they're pushing our posts down because of it. My goal is to cause this vortex, this giant storm of attention around any post that we make, so that it forces people in the county to take a look. That's what the Democrats and any other parties that are super populated fear the most. And we've been seeing action because of it. You go on the Democrats page, they have, like you said, 10,000 followers. Go through all of their posts. The most incendiary post recently that came out was the ice raids that are gonna start in Florida. And there's barely 5 likes and 1 share on it. And in that post, they're explaining the steps you need to do as a liberal in order to fight ICE is to take your phone and record, you know, what the atrocity that's being committed in front of you. I was talking with Greg about this the other day. Why don't we just comment as the party, just as a suggestion? I'm not going to do it. It's up to you. Why don't we comment, you know, instead of that 10-step list on how to let a crime happen in front of you in the name of the government, why don't we just put a step 1 pro two-way stance and tell them fuck around and find out? How about that? You know, if guns were legal for everyone and not just basically who the government deems worthy. Okay, that post alone would take a chunk of people from them straight to us because no one over on their page is engaging or cares what the posts are. They're just joining it for solidarity. That's it. Their numbers are up because of pride, not because they believe in any type of messaging on those pages. They have just emotional posts and no one is interacting with it. We're the exact opposite. Almost everything that we're seeing is because people are emotionally engaged with us, whether opponents and foes fighting us or people who support us. So it's very easy to steal a lot of that attention from them if we actually just have the courage to confront them on.
Yeah.
That was one example.
And Izzy had brought this up to me before the meeting, and one of my responses there is when it comes to directly engaging other parties in social media combat, that's something I really want to have you sign off on before we do.
Absolutely.
That's the piece that's the riskiest.
Yeah. Now, I just wanted to bring it to your attention that if you're worried about the voter base in Orange County being aware of our social media presence, don't worry. The large number will suck in that attention from the other parties. What they have is basically during election time, all they have is mobilizing. That's it. The 10,000 followers that you see there, those are all just for the votes. That's it. They never care about what's being posted on those pages. We actually had a first-hand experience with that in 2018. We saw that they just go in and vote without even caring about what the content or the substance is. But in our case, it's different. And there's a very good chance that sandcastle that they have over there can easily be washed away towards us.
Right. This is a dialogue
We'll be continuing that in the Discord.
Discord is perfect, yes. It's private, no one can, you know, take what we're saying out there and bet everyone. And, I mean, honestly, there's nothing to hide. This is an open strategy that I'm discussing. But at the same time, there's just a fear that, well, it's not really a fear. It's just an expectation. We've seen some action in the comments on our page. We've seen people start to come. One of the people that comments on our page is actually an active member on the Democrat Party's page. Like I saw him as a member on the page, one of the team members that they have on the side of the page. He comes and posts on our page. Like he's bothered enough, you know, to go and do that.
Good.
They're probably at some point when our numbers get enough high enough, they're going to mobilize to actually camp over and try to, you know, steer people back in it after coming over.
So you want to go over some of the metrics or the?
Well,
that was.
I was, yeah, I'm sorry, you go.
So unless there's anything specific you want to highlight, I think we've gone through most of what we want to talk about, right?
You shared likes and follows. Do you have metrics on exposure? Because Facebook tells you who you saw the post, not just
Yeah.
likes and follows.
Yeah, we have the whole detail on that. I just didn't include it in this specific report. I couldn't give you the number. I know our metrics are way up for this month, but I couldn't give you exact
I
numbers.
think it was in the 100,000s. I'm pretty sure that one Bitcoin post.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, when I open my Facebook, on my private,
Yeah, it's
on
killing
my
my
personal,
notifications.
like my notification, the majority of my notifications are engagements on the Libertarian Party of Orange County page. And I really don't have time to look at them all, so I'll just handpick every now and then, or if I recognize someone's name, you
Yeah.
know, I'll go and just see what the dialogue is
No,
about. But I
that's
mean,
celebrity life.
clearly what you're doing is working as it relates to activity.
That's it, that's the whole point.
So my only, from a big picture standpoint, and what I privately talked with you guys about this morning is just, I like that, and the metrics sound good, but I want to make sure
Substance.
what's coming from that. Do we have 1,400 people on there that hate us and are never going to come to an affiliate meeting, or is there a percentage of them? I don't care if there's people on our page that hate us. Don't get me wrong.
It's the ratio.
You know,
How many?
what was it? Howard Stern said. Remember that movie? It was like they were asking for the statistics of how many people listened to him that liked him, and then they were like, well, hang on a minute. You know, here's the better statistic. It was like 2 times that many people listened every day because they hated him and they wanted to hear what the next thing was that he had to say.
Okay.
So I'm not saying I'm against the statistics and all
You
that.
just wanna know where-
As the big picture person for our party, I just want to make sure that we're thinking about it. And
So-
what are the people that are just watching this engagement? Our hope is some of them come and engage with us and come here.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the real
I would
hope.
also
It's
say
gonna
that
happen.
one
It's
thing
gonna
I've
happen.
observed with a lot of the engagement is that we have a lot more, most of our active commenters that are following us agree with us on some issues and vehemently disagree with us on other issues.
Yeah, and it
And they're-
changes.
And they follow it as best I can tell because we provide something unique that isn't available somewhere else.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head in our Discord conversation earlier, is we need to, and I know with the activity from Trump, there's certain reasons why we'll stay on a topic for a few days, but
Yes, exactly.
I think there becomes a kind of a critical point where we need to shift and, because
Yeah, not-
everybody's gonna think, oh, you guys are just Republican white based on some
Something,
dialogue we've
yeah.
had over 2 or
And then
3 days.
they
That's
change
when
it,
you
yeah.
shift gears
Yes.
and then you piss,
The other
then you piss
side.
the Republicans off and the Democrats are like, oh, okay, well, I guess,
But it's a shakedown. If you think about it, it's a shakedown against the other two parties. You're shaking the other parties to come over and check you out because you're offering something different. They have to deal with the posts that are against them, but they also get to enjoy the posts that are for them because they, as like it or not, they share some of our views and don't with some of our other views. It's never gonna really
So
get on.
Bravo, if you guys didn't catch it, I mean, our growth on social media, Facebook specifically, just in the last 60 days has been phenomenal, and it's, Greg and Izzy, does anybody else post? I do, very randomly,
Robert, we have to meet.
very randomly.
Yeah, Rob Castellani, we just brought him on board.
So it's basically, we've been
I
able to
actually
share with you
need to have a
guys.
word with him because, well, technically you would. It's just some of the posts about the police. I don't know if that concerned you or not.
Yeah, there's some places where he was getting kind of edgy on that.
Because I could have done those, but I was kind of like
Yeah, that's,
holding back.
yeah, and that's something where, yeah, Rob
He did
has
a good
more
job.
anarchist background, so he
Yeah, he
brought
did a
the
great
willingness
job.
to take on those topics.
So I'm gonna default to YouTube,
Okay.
to inform me of anything.
Yeah, no, and I had a good chat with him to kind of set the kind of the boundaries of, I'm fine with edgy. Edgy gets engagement, but make sure that you're prepared to back it up with
That's
actual
simple.
discussion.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think there's certainly in our wide net party, cop haters, and I definitely don't want Libertarian Party of Orange County
That's it.
to be
You know,
branded
yeah,
as that, to
specifically
be
not
branded
that.
as
Yeah,
that on
that's
our
a good
social
point.
media.
Yeah, no, that's literally why I brought that
Yeah,
up.
and that's one of the things I also kind of reviewed is that, there's certainly no shortage of things to call out about the Orange County law enforcement, but I also make sure that anytime they do get things right and like, there's news stories that highlight that they really did a good job, to make sure that we highlight that too.
It happens.
So that
I
way
mean,
we're
for instance, right now, the police and fire department in Apopka, Florida, they have the city has what they call a 50-yard line goal thing that they're doing, and what it is these firemen and police on their own time are volunteering to mow 50 yards for people that need it. Okay, so I'm saying, to me, if we're going to engage if we're going to pick that as a topic, I want to make sure we're not only
and that we're
being
giving
Yeah,
full
pigeonholed.
context.
Right.
Okay, because
Both sides of the story.
especially coming from, I'm an anarchist, I think most of us in the room
Mhm.
believe in a small government, sides of which we might debate on, but, police and fire and those types of things being a part of that, so, we do have anarchists in our party, and that's a whole thing we can discuss and debate, and I like the dialogue, but I think by and large, currently, the membership of Libertarian Party of Orange County are anarchists, so
Right.
predominantly. So, and I think that's the digestible message. There's plenty of anarchy pages if that's what people want to go to and be a part of.
And then of course also there's the viewpoint too of framing it towards what's actually out there in the county, which for me drags me further to the left than I would normally be comfortable with, because our county is further to the left than I'd be comfortable with.
Well, that's what brings the attention. And a very tiny detail. I was at a convention recently, last weekend, and in Tampa, the Democrat Party over there had voter registration tables. And shockingly, they were using strategies from my book, so I pressed them, and I found that one of them had a copy. So, interestingly enough, they have a guide, and I don't think it's a good idea to sleep on that. The crazy thing is, when I asked them why, they said it was, what's her name, Marianne? Marianne? Who is the one that used the Evangelion post recently?
Marianne Williamson.
Yes. She apparently is actually the real millennial underdog candidate. Not Herbie, not even Tulsi, the one that I was talking about before.
And her posting is getting a lot of attention. Which
The
is
reason is because
interesting.
she's starting to pay attention to the kids. She's starting to pay attention to millennials. And I think the party as a whole does not want a repeat of 2016 for Democrats. So they are, in fact, trying not to kick out their millennial voters this time around. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that the strategies thereof are now going to start resembling ours, but not on their social media. So far, what I saw was a TV, kind of like this one, they put on their cable with memes rotating about voter registration. One of them was Evangelion. There's a famous one, Get in the Robot. That was one of my favorite ones from a show in the 90s. They changed it to Get in the Voting Booth. That's literally a description that I put in the book.
You're making me feel old, so, I mean, I like memes
No,
too,
I'm
but
not
I
asking
didn't
you to know the
realize
reference.
they were so strategic.
Yeah,
it's
Even
happening.
outside of
for the-
social media.
For the younger two generations, it's, I can't say I understand it, but it's a thing.
I mean, the growth on the page, come on.
So,
All right, well, let's,
Anyway,
and then I
that's
guess
it
the,
for the reports.
last piece is
thank you, Liz. very much.
Marie for the microphone purchase.
Yes.
So for those of you who can't hear us very well, we're trying to get a microphone, but we want to get the right one. So we do have a standing authorization for $200 for a microphone. I've done some research. There's a couple ones that I've seen that seem really good, but part of it is we've got to figure out what we really want it for. We've talked about a couple different things that would involve microphones. Some of those being the videos with the discussion topics that we would do. Sometimes it's for our speakers here, which may be a single person or a panel. And those generally would use different microphones. For an omnidirectional one that would sit on the table and you can actually decide, is it going to pick up all around it or in a certain direction or straight forward. Blue Yeti seems to be the one that I've seen really good reviews on.
That's the one I have.
A lot of podcasters use that. I do like it for if we were having, like when we had the panel of people,
Right.
if we had it sitting on the table there. At first I was concerned because it's USB and whether or not we'd be able to use it with a phone, but I did find a pretty simple solution for that with a powered USB hub. But if we have a single person up here walking around, that may not work as well, depending on how far away they were. If we had it maybe on the table here, there are the lavalier ones that like hook to your microphone. But if the camera's there, the phone's there, then that would need to go to one of the wireless ones, which I saw like $30 to $170. Like there was a wide range in that. And that would work for that particular situation, or if you were going live or we were out at an event, that would work well, but not for some of the other video stuff we had talked about. And then there's one that's kind of like a boom mic, and there's two different kit versions that I saw. That one of them actually, because that one's a single directional. There's one by Rode, and you can actually, we have the stand. The part that's holding the phone, and you actually attach via screw the mic part up there, so it would face out towards where the speaker is and pick up more audio, or towards us here. One of the kits had that piece, plus it had an actual like stand, so if we wanted to have it stood over a table where we had multiple speakers, or we were doing a video, and that was like $179 for the kit that had both the freestanding stand and the attachment for the top. So I think we're really going to have to think about what our main use for it is gonna be. Is it going to be live streaming, our meetings? Do we
I
have
think that's
multiple
step
use?
one. I think live streaming meetings, live streaming guest speakers, that's what we're currently doing, and that's where I would probably base.
I originally really liked the Blue Yeti, but if we're gonna have it be for multiple things, right now what I'm seeing, the kit with the mic that could either go out from the top there, or we could stand it up and have it pointed towards where the speaker is, but outside of the view of the camera, or over a table of people sitting. That seems to be the most versatile so far. And all these options are still within our budget range.
Well, I don't think this will be the,
$100, Blue Yeti?
The 127 to 150 is what I saw on the Blue Yeti. We currently have authorized $200, and like I said, that one was 179 that had it in a mode where we could use it multiple ways. That was an actual full kit of pieces on that.
I mean, that to me sounds like the smart move, because if you can't make one purchase that does everything, you've got to take the next best thing. And then if we go to podcast at some point, we've talked about it, but we're literally doing this. And we're
Right.
having guests, so
Right.
let's make that better.
My invitation for you still open.
Those lavaliers are pretty cool too.
We're still.
The
wireless ones you just flip
lavalier
on,
ones, yeah.
That just wireless Bluetooth.
And some of the real simple wireless ones were like $30. I mean, they went from 30 to like 170, depending on.
So it may be viable to go to the.
Yeah.
Whichever one we get,
You're
might
gonna
be
do
able to
outside
have
presentations
multiple.
of the
They work pretty
Yeah.
good.
Outside presentations, as in going to other events and
Yeah.
presenting?
So they got the bump box. but
Okay.
also the mic-
Yeah. So we could potentially get the boom mic kit.
Pretty nice.
We found a good sale on it, and one of the cheap wireless lavalier ones, and test that out and see how it goes too.
You guys are super frugal, so I'm gonna let you run with that.
Okay, so hopefully, maybe next month, guys, you'll be able to hear us better.
Okay.
Still Prime Days
Sounds like
today.
a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of our commenters mentioned that there's some pretty good Prime deals today.
Okay.
So my commenter said, you
Not
don't need
necessarily-
to buy anything today, specifically from Amazon. There's a counter.
Not necessarily on microphones, though.
I mean, thank you. Communications is a big burden, I know, for you guys, and I'm so thankful that you dedicate the
Fun
time.
job.
I'm just thankful that you dedicate the job to the job, and that you guys, your passion's there, and we're seeing results, because the bottom line, and we're talking a lot about this on the state level, you know, the worst thing you can do is get volunteers that show up and you don't give them, you don't give them a task that fits who they are and what they're about, to the degree that they really enjoy it. Because if we did a better job of that, and this goes for anyone, I mean, my wife runs the volunteer department of a very large nonprofit hospice. I mean, this is parallel with any volunteers. You've got to give them, when they start seeing the reward of their efforts, and it lines up with their passion, they're going to volunteer more now. And they're going to attract other people to volunteer. So, I mean, I like that this is really the first, I think, high-level return on volunteer investment that we've really had.
I'm doing it in my
And now, but it's not just you, it's you guys feed off of it.
Yeah, we
And
all
then
have
it excites me
something
when I
for
look at the Discord
results,
chat
yeah.
and I hear you guys talking about that we're going viral on this and that. You know, it's just it's infectious.
Yeah,
in
it's
a good-
contagious.
in a good way.
Yeah.
So,
I'm still shocked. I'm still
you know, for
shocked.
instance, you know, the next report here that we don't really have is for membership. The membership is our Achilles heel. We have no shortage of things to go out into Orange County and engage with. We have all the media outlets there's just all this stuff right there, but we don't have the people.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have the people. We need more people that are that bring a skill set to the table that we can then plug in to. Hey, oh, you like to do that? Awesome. we've got these tasks over here to do, you know, and they don't show up, get burned out, and leave.
Can I add to that specific point? When it comes to numbers versus people on the ground, what I've noticed is gradually and without needing any explanation, the larger base you have online, the larger the percentage that is going to translate into motion on the ground. In other words, we're definitely going to need bigger space at some point, depending on how much
But
we're going to have
we
to
can
follow.
we can comfortably even set up where we have a, you know, like an EC type table for a meeting. We could be 35 people in this room,
The globe has
very comfortably.
8 billion humans almost.
Yeah.
And all I'm saying is we're just constantly scratching. We're
But
trying
see,
to carve out.
and we're working on a
more
couple
numbers.
things at the same time here, so let's take a second to talk about that.
Yeah,
Obviously, the
exactly.
social media, which is doing very well.
It's gonna translate.
But we've had guest speakers now for 2 months in a row. We've got a third one that are coming. These are entrepreneurs, and this is as the party of the actual capitalism.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I think that's something that we're starting to develop more, and I think the better we capture that and communicate it through social media
Yes.
with this stuff, you see, so we've got
It's
things,
gonna connect.
we have things working within the capacity that we can do with the small amount of regular volunteers that we have. You know, we've got a couple new bodies that keep showing up. Hopefully you guys turn into members and you like what we stand for enough to help us, you know. But that's something, you know, the entrepreneurial side of the party is something I want to take advantage of. And then we can offer that to our membership, and maybe somebody comes, they're kind of bored of the politics side of everything, but they want to hear more about solar.
Yeah,
They want to hear more about the housing,
Yeah,
you know, and you,
A type
so,
of business. basically.
so I think we're onto some stuff here in spite of our lack of bodies, and hopefully we can maximize that. So, we don't have an official membership report, we don't have an official candidates report, and then Wayne's not here for platform.
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be in, but I do want to say the platform posts are needed. What's happening now is because of our social media presence, whenever you post from the Orange County Libertarian Party platform, you're now suddenly going to engage with people, you know, I call them stray commenters, that are going to start wanting to read more. It's a numbers game. A percentage of the people you attract through the viral post is going to go elsewhere. And they go into the platform, and you're going to be engaging with them on the party's platform itself.
Yeah, I guess I didn't mention that during the report, but that is an initiative that we've started this month, is
It
to
worked.
try to post, ideally daily, we don't write it every day, but to post just one clause from our platform each day,
That
just
you
the clause, no
vote on.
explanation.
Yeah. The motions basically that get
Well, and I like
passed.
that you're
And then I took a little
attaching it,
picture with a cap.
attaching it with a
A
picture.
little
Yes,
stock photo
yes.
to illustrate it.
If you want to
Makes
push it
sense.
even harder, attach a video.
Yeah.
And Facebook now lets you animate your pictures. You can actually just zoom into a picture, zoom out of it. Videos have an easier chance of falling in someone's eyes than pictures, even more as an extra step. But making the post is what matters, so that's definitely the right step.
So I think we've got some good stuff in the works, and I
Major,
wanted to highlight that because you know, fruits of labor produce,
Pretty much.
you know, seeds produce more trees that bear fruit, basically. So, so that's our committee reports. To my knowledge, we have no old business, or is this, or we're going to do this after the meeting?
Yeah, this is unofficial.
I have the actual.
So we have no old business, correct?
Correct.
I'll open it up if there's any motions from the floor. I suspect there are none. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn? In a second.
I second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you guys.
Alright, thank you for the.
Appreciate you guys coming. I don't even know what time it is.
I think it's
9:20,
early. Yeah,
so-
we could technically finish this. So we already eliminated some